Well, what do you want on your tombstone? And I don't mean your pizza. Remember those pizza commercials back in the 90s? Well, sometimes a tombstone, the kind you find in the cemetery, will have something about the person written on the gravestone. So I want to share with you two of my favorite tombstone epitaphs, as they're called. Here's the first. Here lies John Yeast. Pardon me for not rising. I love that. The second is from Mel Blanc. Mel Blanc's tombstone. Now, Mel, if you don't know who he is, he was the voice for countless cartoon characters over the years. Characters like Bugs Bunny, Elmer Fudd, on and on we could go. I mean, he truly was. He was called the man of 1,000 voices, and he truly was. Now, at the end of these cartoons, one of the characters would jump through an imaginary paper screen and say, "That's all, folks." So here's Mel Blanc's gravestone, tombstone, epitaph. That's all, folks. How appropriate. Well, my name is Ron Brooks, and I'm your guide this summer as we explore some of life's greatest questions. Because when you ask better questions, well, you're going to start living a better life. And who doesn't want that? So it turns out that one of the best ways to live in the present is to have a proper perspective on the future. And that's where today's question comes in. If you want to live your best life now, then you need to live with the end of your life in mind. Here's what I mean by that. You can't take anything with you, but everyone leaves a legacy. So the closer I get to retirement, the more I find myself thinking about what is the legacy that is my career? What will I leave behind? And it may sound a little morbid, but it's really a great motivational exercise. I want you just to imagine eavesdropping on your memorial service. And don't tell me that you haven't thought about it, because I know you have at least once in your life. So visualize things about yourself that people will and will not miss 6 months after you're dead. Think about who will visit your grave on significant days. Consider the enduring value of things that you're going to leave behind. What will people remember? What will they miss? It really is that the things mentioned in wills or even obituaries. It's not the accomplishments that people will celebrate so much as the way you made them feel when you interacted with them. So a wonderful story, a kind of a legend about British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli and his political rival, William Gladstone, who supposedly had a date with the same woman on different nights. And when asked her impression of the two men, here's what she said. She said, "When I left the dining room after sitting next to Mr. Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in all of England. But after sitting next to Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in all of England." One of my favorite movies is As Good as It Gets. And it has Helen Hunt and Jack Nicholson. And in the film, Jack Nicholson has a great line. Here's what he says. He says, "You make me want to be a better man." Well, how many people have you elevated their self-esteem? You've helped them want to be the best version of themselves. What fond memories do you have of those that you've served with, people you've mentored, teammates and coworkers who loved playing and working beside you, those handful of really close friends? Think about the qualities of family members you'll leave behind. Consider how your kids, spouse, and siblings will remember you. In the Gospel of Luke, the 12th chapter, Jesus tells a cautionary tale about a man who took a conventional approach to success. He had money, fame, perhaps some power, which in Jesus's day was measured in how much land you had and the size of your barns. So Jesus said a man was so rich that he had to build more and bigger barns. But before he could finish them, he died. And Jesus calls him a fool because he had not thought about and planned for his demise. Who will get what you prepared for yourself, Jesus says. Now, he wasn't reminding us that we all need to have a will, even though that's a great idea. Now, Jesus reminds us why it is so important to start with the end in mind as you move through your life. Now, you may have a 1 year, a 3 year, 5 year, 10-year plan. I hope you do. Those are all good things. But most people with perceived good health, they anticipate years more of living. But psychologists tells us it's a very difficult thing for us to contemplate our deaths. I've got plenty of time. I don't need to worry about that right now. Penny's mom used to love to say, I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, whenever there was something that she didn't really want to talk about or deal with. Well, you don't have to be a follower of Christ in order to ask the legacy question in your life. What do I want said of me when I pass away? How do I want to be remembered? As a pastor, I've done a lot of funerals. I've listened to a lot of friends and family members over the years discuss their newly departed person. Often the words they share are cliche. He or she was a good person, or they loved their family, or they were a hard worker. But other times the people just share story after story of how that person made a difference in their life or in the community. How do you want that conversation about you with a pastor to go someday? A healthy anticipation of one's death, it's not morbid. Quite the opposite is true. People who regularly ponder the brevity of their years cultivate that unique ability to focus on what matters most. So, let's make this really personal. What are you leaving behind? What are you trying to build with your life? What matters most to you, and is your life reflecting those values, or are they reflecting something else? See what I'm asking? These are the Tombstone questions, right? What are you doing now to build a lasting legacy after you're gone? This story that Jesus shares was the result of someone asking him to resolve an inheritance dispute between two brothers. And realizing that the men were asking the wrong question, Jesus gives them something far, far more valuable, an insight into living. Sometimes events will happen to make us reflect. We often call them wake-up calls. Well, 3 things happened to me this last week that were like that in my life. First, there were 2 funerals in the life of the church, always a reminder about how fragile and wonderful the gift of life really is. Second, my brother's girlfriend was diagnosed with kidney cancer. The C word is often a wake-up call for us. Finally, I got a statement for my pension retirement plan, and with recent events, my account has lost 20% of its value. All 3 were reminders of how quickly things can change in your life, health-wise, financially. In the book of James, chapter 4, verse 14, he writes, "What is your life? You are a mist that appears for just a little while, and then it vanishes." One last thought you might want to act on. Starting with that end in mind that you want, what's the next thing you need to do to make that happen? Based on the ending that you want, what do you want to do more of? What do you need to do less of? Now, if this has been helpful to you, and I certainly hope that it has been, then share it with somebody else. And look us up on our YouTube channel, like it, subscribe, hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss the next time we look at some of life's greatest questions. Because when you start asking better questions, you're going to start living a better life. See you next time.